A recurring question has been asked since Aura arrived in FaM. Who are we, and what do we want with Forever a Movement? For it all to make sense, I need to take you back. I need to take you back to the beginning. Before there was FaM, before there were 4 founders, an idea was set into motion. An idea so powerful that those involved would never be the same again. There's a man that, as far as I'm aware, you people in the FaM landscape don't know much about. But for all of this to make sense, you're going to have to learn a little bit more about him. He has been known by many names throughout his life, but the name we came to know him as was Father. And despite what we in Aura may think about this man today, without him, none of us would be standing here. You all know that Father was the one to bring RANIK, Badwall, Black Heron, and Guns together to create FaM in 2009. But that wasn't the first time the old man tried to play God. 8 years prior, as a retired military general, the man we called Father was bestowed a highly classified operation. Under the orders of an undisclosed government agency, his mission was to create a covert underground academy, where soldiers with strengths and abilities far beyond normal comprehension would be created. Of course, like any top secret government project, Father made a decision to build this academy in the snowy mountains of Russia, where it would go undetected from any foreign problems. Once the academy had finished construction, it was time for Father to put his training program into action. But before he could do that, he first needed to find some willing recruits. He had met many people throughout his world travels, and it seemed that he was a good people person, because it didn't take him long to gather 6 willing participants from around the globe to come train at his academy. However, he was adamant that he needed 7, and that's where I come into things. I met Father at the turn of the century, when I was just a young man. He and his men saved my village from a hostile takeover. I spoke to him a lot during that time, as I was at the forefront of the fight to protect my people. I learned many things about what he had done and where he had been, and at that time, he seemed like a man that I could trust. He seemed to have a lot of respect for me as well. And that was all but confirmed when he approached me to be the 7th member of the inaugural class of his academy. He said that he was looking for fighters, people who were willing to lay down their lives for the greater good of humanity. And this was a message that I bought into. As much as I loved my people, deep down inside, I always felt that I was destined for greater things. So I took Father's offer as a sign, and became the 7th member of the Academy, which would go on to be known as Aura. Upon our arrival to the Academy, any preconceived idea we might have had about this man was quickly thrown out the window. Of course, we were under no illusion that this was going to be easy. We were coming to a top-secret training academy to be the guinea pigs for whatever this elaborate experiment was meant to be. By a man most of us had met at some point during his time in the military. But even that couldn't have prepared us for what we endured. We were subject to 6 months of some of the most brutal conditions known to man. Day and night, rain or shine, there was no time, and no methods off limits. Father did whatever he could to break and remold us into the ultimate soldiers, and after the 6 months of training were up, it was time for a test. Each of us would compete in hand-to-hand combat with the man himself, and if at least one of us could beat him, his program would be labeled a success, ready to be put into official use. One by one, I watched as 6 people who had grown to be like family to me got picked apart and decimated by the man who had brought us here. After no more than 5 minutes each, Father had ripped, each of these individuals in some pieces, and moved on to the next without even breaking a sweat. Finally, it was my turn to step up to the challenge. In my heart, I was ready to give this man hell. After everything he had put us through in those 6 months, it was hard to still look at this man with respect, and I planned to weaponize that to my advantage in what was going to be the fight of my life. But just like many did before me, I fell at the mercy of the man who I genuinely believed to be the toughest fighter this world has ever seen. And with that, all of our futures were uncertain. No one had been able to successfully defeat Father. So not only was the program and the academy shut down, but we didn't know if the 7 of us that had been involved would be allowed to walk free in the outside world ever again. Later that night, after we all had been defeated, Father came to me in my room. He had a bag packed and keys to a truck parked outside. He said he can't be sure about the others, but if I leave now, I would be able to walk away from this place a free man and not have to worry about it ever again. He also told me that he was sorry and that things were never meant to end up the way they did. Reluctantly, for the sake of my comrades, I took Father's offer and quickly made haste, starting the long journey home back to my village. After 3 long days, I finally arrived back to the place I once called home, to find that my home was no longer there. During my absence, the hostiles ran rampant through the area, destroying everything in their path. My home, my people. There was no trace of any of them, besides the long, cold ashes that lay on the ground. I spent days searching for any sign of their survival, but the more I searched, the more it became clear that there was no one. I thought my life was over at that moment. What more could there be left of me in this world? I had left my home to go off in a search for some grander life, and because of that mistake, my people paid the price. And then, all of a sudden, it dawned on me. I was in the middle of making the same mistake again. I already left my people once, costing them everything, and now I was about to do the same thing to the family that I had made for myself in Aura. Without hesitation, I made the long 3-day journey back into the ruthless heart of Mother Russia, praying to God that I wasn't too late. When I arrived at the academy, it felt like a complete ghost town. Doors had been left open, blowing snow throughout the facility. All of the expensive equipment had been taken, and to top it off, there was not a soul in sight. Typically, there'd be at least 24 people running around the place, doing some kind of work. But on this day, no one. The rooms where me and my comrades used to lay were completely empty, and it started to hit me. Like some sort of dark, cursed prophecy. I had suffered the consequences of the same mistake twice in a span of a week. But then, I heard something. A faint voice, calling out for help, in the deepest parts of the academy. I traveled down to the pit of Aura, where a series of prison cells were located, and there, crammed into the back cell, with barely any room to breathe, were my 6 comrades. I immediately released them from their captivity, as they explained to me what happened. The day after I left, the 6 of them were brought into the cells and locked there, as they could hear the noises of everyone evacuating the facility above them. They were being left for dead. If I had arrived any later than I had, things might have ended differently. The 7 of us were then left with an ultimatum. What were we going to do with our lives? Like me, the other 6 didn't really have any sort of lives to go back to. They had hoped, with Father bringing them here, it would be the start of something great for them. But they are now in no better position from the point they started. I cared for my comrades in the weeks that followed, using what little supplies had been left in the facility. After nearly a month setting up camp in what was slowly becoming a broken down academy, the smallest of us, a young boy from Brazil, came to me with an idea. He proposed that we rebuild this academy and use it for its intended purposes. Only this time, he wanted me to lead them. He believed that, unlike Father, I would truly have all the best intentions at heart. So even if the methods were tough, we would survive together as a family. I asked the boy, why would we do this? Why do we want to train to get stronger if not for the purpose of Father's classified mission? And the boy said to me, so nobody can lock us inside a cage ever again. That's all I needed to hear. But if we were going to rebuild this academy, we were going to do things differently. While the name Aura may be scratched into the doors of this facility, the Aura program was not going to be what we operated with. Instead, as the leader of my comrades, I came up with a new program, one in which I called the 7 Deadly Sins. Each of us was symbolically given the title of one of the 7 deadly sins, and we adopted these as our new names for the new path we were about to walk down in this life. We trained amongst the 7 of us for many years, getting stronger in the process. Soon after, we felt we needed to sharpen our skills we were forming against the outside world. So we opened the doors of our new rebuilt academy to only the bravest of souls who dare take the journey to try to find this place. We trained with these outsiders, battled against them, and over time, our academy was slowly turning into a school, where people would seek out this place of myth to find the 7 deadly sins, to hopefully get a chance to train under them and then take those skills back with them into the world. But during this time, something happened. My comrades were seemingly starting to get complacent with their roles, and that complacency started to reflect in their skills. You see, the title that I adopted didn't just become my new name. It became my new way of life, and there was nothing that I had more pride for than the protection and well-being of my inner circle. I made the decision to gather my comrades and remind them why we started this place. I told them that if we continue on this path of friendly competition and taking losses to the outsiders, then it won't be long before someone comes along and throws them back into that cage in the basement. So from that day forth, we implemented a new rule within the 7 Deadly Sins program. That was, if any member of the sins loses to the member of the outside world, then they must sacrifice their title and be forced to leave the 7 Deadly Sins. I didn't want to see any of my comrades go. This was my family. But we set out on this mission together to ensure that no one from the outside world would ever stand a chance against us when we stand united. So if someone isn't bringing their 100% in that mission, they put the entire group at risk. As much as I loved my comrades, I was not going to let the actions of one cost us all. For over 5 years, every single one of us went undefeated. It was the wake-up call they needed to make sure that our family stayed together. All was fine. All was peaceful. Until one day, a man named RANIK arrived at our door. I could tell from the moment that I laid eyes on him that this RANIK character was a special individual. He had a cold and adamant nature about him that let every single person in the room know just how serious he was from the moment he walked in. About halfway through his time with us, I got to speak with RANIK, and it was at this moment where he revealed to me how he came to find out about our academy. I'm sure you can believe how shocked I was to find out that the man who had created this academy in the first place was in fact the same person who had given RANIK the information he needed to find us. But that wasn't something I was ready to tell RANIK. As a matter of fact, I was never ready to tell RANIK that information, because I thought it was something the sins might be able to use to get some revenge on Father one day, although that opportunity never did present itself. So RANIK will be finding out these secrets about Father just as you people are finding out about it right now. RANIK completed his 6 months of training under the man called Wrath, at which point in time, RANIK was set to face Wrath, one-on-one, however, quite disrespectfully to Wrath. RANIK deemed him unworthy and wanted to face the most formidable amongst us. Myself. Nothing like this had ever happened in the academy before. But I believe this was that special trait that I saw in RANIK at play. I accepted RANIK's challenge and instead put my place in the 7 deadly sins on the line against him. It was a good fight. I'd say one of the best fights I'd ever had against someone from the outside world. With no shame, I could admit that this man was physically stronger than me, but I was too fast and too experienced for him to handle. RANIK is no pride. So despite his best efforts, RANIK did not secure his place within the 7 deadly sins at this time. But this wouldn't be the only day that RANIK would shake things up in the Aura Academy. Around 8 months later, in March of 2009, RANIK returned to the academy. But this was not the same version of the man we had met all those months ago. After being cast out of FaM, he was enraged, boiling at the edges, looking to take his frustrations out on someone. He demanded a match with Wrath, that he was initially meant to compete in, and all my fellow comrades were outraged. They couldn't believe that he dared show his face around here again after the defeat he suffered. But not me. I was intrigued by RANIK's actions, and so I made the decision to let the match go ahead, under the same exact conditions that we always compete under, where if Wrath loses, he must sacrifice his position to RANIK. And to cut a long story short, I had never seen a more one-sided fight in my entire life, especially considering the skills I knew Wrath possessed. RANIK decimated. As much as it pained me to have to say goodbye to a brother I'd known for so many years, the truth is, Wrath was becoming sloppy, and he wasn't performing up to the same standard as the rest of us. It was only a matter of time before this happened, but in reality, we couldn't have asked for a better warrior to become the new Wrath. Such unmatched, raw strength. With RANIK now in this position, we had a soldier in our ranks that could overcome anything the outside world wanted to throw at us. Little did we know that the blow from the outside world would come from RANIK himself. After 7 years since our wrath, after 7 years of the 7 of us continuing to go undefeated, one day we woke up to find out that the 7 deadly sins had become the 6 deadly sins. In the dead of night, our wrath, along with 2 of his students, fled the academy, leaving without a trace. We had no idea where he had gone or why. That was until a few months later, when a little known event known as FaM Survival came around. And me and my remaining comrades were stunned when we witnessed our Wrath coming out onto a show wearing our uniform, returning to the place that once exiled him, to take it over in our image. The audacity! He had none of our blessings to do this. But despite that, he just walked out there on a worldwide broadcast tarnishing our legacy and the entire legacy we were creating for ourselves. You're probably asking yourselves, why am I telling you all of this? I am here to broadcast my message to a worldwide audience, just as RANIK did all those years ago, because we need the world to understand the context before we do what we're about to do. The 7 Deadly Sins program was not the Aura program that was created by RANIK's good pal, Father. The 7 Deadly Sins program was a family. A family that was supposed to look out for each other. We took RANIK into that family for 7 years. He was a brother to us. We fought side by side in combat, in the name of our collective. And after 7 years, he took all that away from us overnight. It was really hard admitting that we had been used. But it's exactly what happened. RANIK spent 7 years becoming as good as us, so that he could one day walk into FaM and seek it without anyone having a fighting chance. This is not a betrayal that we take lightly. Ever since that day, we've been plotting our revenge on RANIK, knowing exactly where he was at all moments as he continued to broadcast his location month after month to a worldwide audience. And now, thanks to our allegiance with a couple of other people this organization has betrayed over the years, namely Mr. Bash and Lord Stigma, our revenge can finally be inflicted on the man we once called our brother. The man we once called Wrath. You tore our family apart, RANIK, and now we tear your family apart. This is only the beginning.
The Royal Rumble is about one thing: opportunity to compete, to trailblaze, to make history. History is always made at the Rumble. And in 2023, there will be more Rumble than ever. 30 superstars, 15 diamonds, 2 colossal Royal Rumble matches, all under one roof. It's the most exciting match on the FaM calendar. The match where possibility meets legacy. And it's coming to you live. Saturday, February 11th at 11 p.m. UK and 6 p.m. Eastern. Only on youtube.com/TheMovementXX. This year, we rumble again, as two people's dreams will become immortalized.